Welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by legendary trainer and great philosopher Teddy Atlas. Teddy, you did it again. Successful title defense down in Philly with Gvozdyk. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I didn't do it. And listen, you're a friend, and obviously you're being overly gracious to me. But the fight always does it, you know. And he's a terrific fighter. We weren't satisfied, you know. Either one of us. I'm always proud of him, and as the person that he is, that's why I'm training him. And the fighter that he is, and the fighter that he'll continue to develop, the champion that he'll continue to develop to be. That's what this is. It's a journey, you know. It's a process, and you want to continue developing. When you win the title, add to it, you know. Add floors to that house that you just built, and we didn't get to really show the things. There's no excuses or anything. It was just we had an awkward opponent, and nobody wanted it to end with an injury, you know. And it was confusing at the end the way it ended. And again, awkward opponent, you know, we're responsible for everything we do. And you get the result you want, but not the way that you envision it, you know, and that's life sometimes. But for myself, I wanted an opportunity for Alex to get more into the fight, but it wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't meant to be with this particular fight, the way that things transpired.
Let me give a quick recap, just if anyone hasn't seen the fight. Alex was fighting Doudou Ngumbu, French kid by way of, where was he from? Congo. And, so, as Teddy said, he was a very awkward fighter. Alex was taking his time. He's a very almost cerebral fighter. You saw it in the Stevenson fight. He was taking his time figuring him out. Right around the fourth round, he really started getting to Doudou and he missed him with a couple really big punches that probably would have ended it. Nevertheless, Doudou had an incredibly awkward style, and early in the fifth round, Alex hit him with a couple of shots, nothing devastating. And I'm assuming he had a legitimate injury. I didn't see anything that screamed out like, yeah, he's definitely hurt, but he pulled up lame, pointing to his calf or his Achilles, started hopping around the ring. They waved it off. It looked like there was a little confusion, and the ref almost like seemed to give him a timeout, which was confusing in itself. I mean, last time I checked, you can't call it timeout.
You've seen the commercials, you know, there's no crying in baseball.
Yeah.
There's no timeouts in boxing.
Exactly. And I think it caused huge confusion.
Yeah. Listen, no fingers pointed at nobody. Again, you know, we just wanted an opportunity to be able to do it the way that we envisioned doing it, and the way we trained to do it, and the way that we would hope that we were able to do it, which is in a cleaner way and, you know, in a more solid way. But it wasn't meant to be. And, you know, I have to take some responsibility for that.
I just want to interrupt for 1 second. All you can do is fight the guy in front of you. I think that I know Alex is feeling you and Alex, from speaking with both of you after the fight, are feeling hard on yourselves. And I say, all you can do is show up and fight the guy in front of you.
I think I made a mistake in the way that, and there's, again, no excuses here. I mean, there's no crying in baseball. There's no, you know, timeouts in boxing. At least there didn't used to be. There's no excuses in life or in boxing. But we got the win. He's champion. I make no apologies. I think Alex is, the best fighter there. But, did we satisfy everybody? No. Can you satisfy everybody? No. You can't anyway. But we got to satisfy ourselves.
Yeah, I said to Alex.
That's where it starts. And when I take a little bit of, responsibility is that I was concerned that he would overlook this guy because we're human beings.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Stevenson. Stevenson was the longest reigning champion in boxing, 5.5 years, and the hardest puncher in boxing other than Wilder. Take your choice, whichever one you thought. Wilder's right hand, Stevenson's left hand. What's the hardest punch in boxing? Stevenson had a better delivery system than Wilder. His technique's better.
For sure.
So, and one of the hardest punches I've ever seen in my life, Stevenson. Yeah. And so going into that fight, we understood the dangers. We understood the awareness level that it needed to be. And he was tremendous, Alex, with that. I was concerned that everybody was talking, obviously, less about this guy so that he could overlook him. Human beings do that.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
We're not machines.
I was concerned about that too.
But this kid is a consummate pro. But maybe I overdid it because I was pointing out to him up until the moment that this guy is the most dangerous fighter you've ever fought. Because that's the only way I know how to go about it.
Yeah.
Because you don't win this fight, you don't go forward. You know, it's one thing to win the title. What do you do with the title?
Yes.
You've been trying to win this title since you're 10 years old. Do you want to be one and done? No. You know, the only way that you get back all those missed proms, all those missed opportunities, all those missed things that most people get to do as youngsters, playing and going to parties and going to celebrations and holidays. As a fighter, the only way you get those things back is you win the title and you keep the title. Where you make an impactful mark from winning the title to go back to all those things you missed. It's my responsibility to make sure my fighter. Do I get served by it too in my family? Of course I do. But it's my responsibility first to make sure that the fighter understands that. And that there can be no letdown. There's not allowed to be a letdown. That we have more road to plow. And there's only one way to do it. To understand that this fight is the most dangerous fight because, yeah, Stevenson was the most dangerous fight till Stevenson. But after that, the next fight is the most dangerous because it represents keeping the title. And it represents the possibility there could be a letdown. There could be a satisfaction level. So I didn't want that. So I embarked into his head that what I just said to you guys. And to you guys that are listening, that thanks, by the way, for being out there. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. I didn't know if I should be doing these podcasts, and I got talked into it, and you guys make me think maybe it was worth doing it. So I appreciate that. But I just wanted to make sure that that he wouldn't stumble, we wouldn't stumble. So I put forward the imagery in his head that until we get past this represents the toughest fight in his life. And he's such a respectful kid. He's such a professional. And there's many professionals out there. It's not just him. I'm just talking about him because of what I know.
Right.
He is such a serious kid that he took that attitude. He went forward with that attitude that, yeah, indeed, I trust my trainer. And this is the most dangerous fight right now. And being that he's thoughtful and being that, you know, he's a guy that's in there cerebral, as you said, we may have outthought it a little bit because I put that there. I put that there because he went in there with the same respect, the same mental constitution that he did with the Stevenson, that he's going to dissect this guy and he's going to respect the things that need to be respected and go about it in a methodical way. But once it presented itself that obviously it was a different level and obviously styles are different, and the guy was more reckless, he was still in that place for another round or two and he was getting out of that place. But because I put him in that place, he was still in that place of being more intellectual about it than he needed to be. He should have been more instinctive about it. And that's my fault. I'm just saying. And listen, nothing wrong. He still did the job. He still showed the level of fighter that he is. He still did that. But for us to be satisfied, there were spots there where rather than just let his hands go and just trust a moment, he was doing what I had asked him to and thinking it out. Yeah. Maybe a little beyond where it turned out it had to be thought out. Mm-hmm. At that point, it was thought enough. We knew the guy and he should have just started to do the things that his instincts told him this guy was. But he was still thinking this guy might be a little bit more. Yeah. That's what you call respecting your guy too much. And that sounds funny in life and in any business, because what do you mean respect your guy too much? You can't respect someone too much. I don't mean personally.
Yeah.
I just mean in the actual way of the way things were panning out, that we should have, and I should have probably a little sooner than I did said to him, just let your hands go now. And this, all the thinking will take care of itself. And we were getting to that place. He was getting to that place. It's just that we didn't quite have the time that it would have taken to get there, maybe another round. So, again, you all well-intended plans that I was being responsible as a trainer, but everything is obviously relative to what it is. Everything is what it is in that particular case. And in this particular case, again, there's such a fine line of what I'm trying to say. It's not like you should have been reckless. You shouldn't have cared. You should have just went in there and just wing it. No. But we were at a higher place than we needed to be intellectually, where we should have been more instinctual.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Instinctive. That's right.
And he's very instinctual. The funny thing is, I think that I probably slowed that down a little bit with in my mind, my preparation for him to not have a letdown. But listen, at the end of the day, I've had guys come up to me and say, we thought he looked terrific. I've had other people say, yeah, I saw the little bit of, tentativeness, if you will, or maybe that's the wrong word, but of thinking of, feeling him out. And the feeling out process probably went a little longer than it needed to go at the end of the day. But, it's, again, every moment is the moment. Every, experience is its own experience in itself. This is what was meant to be for us at this point in our career, for the journey we're taking, because it will make us learn things. It will make us pay attention to some things that maybe if we just get rid of the guy 1, 2, 3, maybe we don't pay attention to. So I really believe in those things. I believe everything happens for a reason.
It seems obvious to me why you were attracted to him, because one thing that stood out in that, what you've just described, is that he's very coachable and he listens to exactly what you're telling him. He's clearly put all of his faith in you, because he was, I know from speaking with you and Alex before the fight and what the game plan was, just he listens to exactly what you're telling him to do. And I know that that's something that you look for in the fighter. And I had also spoken with him like a day or two prior to the fight, because him and I have become friendly through you, and he lives down the street from me in California. And I said to him just as we were getting off the phone, I said, hey, it's fun being the champion, right? So get in there and get this guy out of there, handle your business, and let's continue doing what you're doing. And you and I had gone to a NASCAR event as guests of.
Don't you ever tell my fighter again, get in there and get a guy out of there. That was wrong with you. That was wrong with you. You want him to get reckless and walk into a bunch?
No. I wasn't telling him to be reckless. I was meaning follow the orders, follow the orders, handle your business. We had gone to a NASCAR event as a guest of my friend Landon Castle, who's a NASCAR driver. And it was interesting to see you guys a couple weeks before the fight. And
we appreciated you taking us to that.
Oh, no, it was nice of Landon to extend us the invitation, but it was just interesting to see everything from when he was eating lunch. At one point, he wanted to be done with his lunch and rush over to see one of the pre-race events. And he said, no, we're not done eating lunch. And it was just interesting that he follows all the directions and just continued to eat exactly as prescribed. Well, he's just a nice kid.
Well, he's a good person, and besides being a good fighter, a very good fighter. And a special person.
Yeah.
And he's the reason why I'm drinking a little coffee, which I don't drink coffee, because, I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
Because, and listen, I'm not crying for pity. I'm blessed. How blessed am I to have these opportunities? But, you feel the responsibility, what you just described. That a person who trusts you, a person who, makes it easy for you to do your job, a person who gives you no freaking excuses to get it wrong, because he ain't going to get it wrong, because he's going to listen to everything you say. And so when it's supposed to shut off, I'm laying in bed last night saying, why don't you shut off? It's over. The worrying's over. Stop. Shut it off. Please. And I can't sleep. Because I'm thinking about what we just talked about. I'm thinking about the next one. I'm thinking about, again, whatever it is that I need to do to correct things or to make things better or to move forward, that I'm going to be able to do those things. Well, and, again, it's just the way it is. There's no complaints, because who's that genius who once said that, pressure is a privilege?
Yep.
Well, it is. It is. But doesn't mean you don't feel the pressure. Who was that other great philosopher who said
Rob Moore?
It might have been Rob, because Rob is really smart. But the guy that said, just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean there's not people out there trying to get me.
I gotta save that one and use it with my wife. To wrap up that fight, look, at the end of the day, all you can do is deal with the person that's in front of you, and he did just that. With the guy, like we said, he was awkward. Alex handled his business. The guy, whether he was injured or not,
you can look better. And again, I hope the people appreciate that we're in a laboratory now, breaking down in a test tube, really breaking down in a very definitive way something that doesn't get broken down in this definitive way.
Right.
We are looking through a microscope here at things that a fighter, a trainer think about.
That's one of the nice things about this type of show is that we don't have a time frame. Right? Yeah, and we can talk about the minute details of the fight, and I think that's what's interesting about this format.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to summarize, one of the things that you said, you're having a hard time sleeping, and I've noticed in my own life, whenever you have a big goal, whether it's a race or a work event, and even when you're successful, unsuccessful, a lot of times I feel the same thing you described. It's almost like a bit of depression when the event is over, because there's been so much leading up to it. And even if I run somewhat competitively, and Rob and I actually woke up at 5:00 the next morning after that fight in Philly. And we ran the Philly half marathon. And
how many people were in that?
11,000.
And when did you come in?
Fifth.
That is tremendous.
Well, for an old man with 4 kids, I was pleased.
Was there anyone under 80?
No, everyone. I think the next guy in my age group was about 10 minutes behind me, honestly. But
no, that's tremendous. I have no idea. It's kind of like looking at a fighter's record who's 25-0, 24-0, 30-0. The first thing you say is, who are the opponents?
Yeah.
Where are they from?
I'm the first one to tell you, like,
when it was all from West Virginia, like where they, and don't start getting mad out there, West Virginia. All right. Don't be like the people from across the pond that all hate me now because they said it's easier to build up.
Oh, please don't open that can of worms, please. We love the British fighters.
Of course. Are you kidding me? But can you be sober about something? Can you be honest about something? And just, if you were in London and you walked down the street and you asked anyone who Joshua was, most people would know. Because in a smaller pond with less celebrated athletes there, I know they have great golfers. I know that they have snooker, and I'm not making fun. I know that they, that they have soccer. I get it. It's huge. I get it. I should throw darts in there, right? I'm just, but you don't have Tiger Woods and Tom Brady and what's his name? Bryce Harper just getting paid at $350 million. And then what's his name getting paid $400 a week later, to top that.
Trout.
Trout. You don't have that.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So if you walk down the street, you say, Joshua, People identify with it because he's been built up, because he can be built up, because there's not as much clutter. There's not as many of the other people and names and options. But if you walk down the street here and you ask somebody, you know who Wilder is? They, what? Who? Yeah. What? I mean, no, really? Fair. They wouldn't know. They would maybe know Mayweather or Pacquiao.
Or Tyson.
Or Tyson. But when you get beyond that, and you ask them, Spence is one of my favorites. They wouldn't know who he is.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Can we just be honest?
Yes.
Can we be cold honest sometimes?
Yeah.
And put away our affiliations, our patriotism. Just put away being a fan just for a minute and talk about the honesty to the question. That nothing else. That it's easier to build up. There was a guy that made a lot of money in London a few years ago. I don't know if you remember him. His name was Chris Eubank.
Yeah, of course.
Now, Chris Eubank was a champion, made a lot of money. He was smart. You know, he stayed undefeated for a while. They built him up again because it was over there.
Yep.
And they built him up and he made a lot of money, and he was also smart at promoting himself. Really was. He put a show on. He did whatever he had to do to make himself a personality. But do you think that Chris Eubank could have been that over here? No, I answer it for you. You don't have to answer it. No, he couldn't have been. No, he couldn't have. Nobody would have knew. And that's not taking anything away from him. I'm not knocking Chris Eubanks. I'm happy he made money. I know him. He's a good person. But over here, you never would have known who he was. You never would have heard of him.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Well,
why'd you get me into this?
To get back to your point, well, two things. We were talking about when you're training for an event and
one other thing I wanted to say what I was talking about to finish up on Alex on the fight is, and again, you know, we're putting this under a microscope where it normally doesn't happen, but we're being, you know, very forthright, which doesn't always happen. But you know, sometimes, no excuse, but sometimes it's easier when you're at a certain level, like Alex, and you're that kind of makeup where you are responsible, you do think things through. It's easier to look good against a better fighter.
I know exactly what you mean. No, it's good. That's true.
Than it is against a lesser fighter.
Yeah.
And I'm not making a guy fought a lesser, but he's not that level.
No.
I don't think we're telling any grand secrets here. He's not quite that level. And a guy that does things right. You know, just to cut through and make it simple. A guy who does things, quote, right, the right way, straight punches instead of, you know, from left field, from right field. Yeah. It's easier to look good against that kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you.
It's cleaner. But,
and the point we were getting at is when you have a big event, and the Philly half marathon wasn't a goal for me. I'm training for the Boston Marathon, but the point is when you have some success or failure at whatever the big event is that you've trained, you know, call it 10 weeks for whatever your athletic goal is, there's a huge letdown a lot of times afterwards, even if you win the race. And to your point, who was in the race? It drives my wife crazy because if I win the race, the first thing I will say to her is like, obviously no real athletes showed up. I won. I'm like the tallest midget. I know that that's not the most appropriate term, but, and if I don't win, then I'm like, oh, I got to get back to the drawing board. So it's kind of like this.
You know, what you just said, short people are going to be calling here.
I know. I apologize. I know I know that's not like politically correct.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's not wrong because you didn't
I'm the tallest short person.
You didn't say it. Whatever happened to the old-fashioned thing about the intent is what matters?
Yes.
Not the phrase.
Yes.
The intent.
Yep.
Whatever happened to that? Where is our common sense? That's what I want this show to be besides boxing. Common sense. Whatever happened to freaking common sense? Political correctness, left, right. Stop all the crap. Common freaking sense.
Yep.
Anyway.
Speaking of common sense, just a quick side note. Did you see that kid, Pulev, after his heavyweight fight, kissed that reporter on the mouth, Jenny Sushi?
No, I didn't see.
Oh,
I didn't
dude.
see it. I just heard he didn't look good.
It did not.
I don't mean doing that. He, as a fighter, I heard his performance wasn't great.
It wasn't great.
But I didn't see that.
She was interviewing him, and he just like out of the clear blue kissed her on the mouth. And I remember at the time thinking,
was it like a Joe Namath moment? Like
no, much more offensive. He didn't say, "I want to kiss you." He grabbed her face with two hands and like kissed her on the like not with an open mouth, but right on the lips aggressively. And I was thinking, she just. She said, all right then. And, she was kind of laughed it off, but I watched as it happened live. I was like, Jesus, that is aggressive, man. I hope that they know each other. Like that is, if he doesn't know her, that's crazy. And she kind of laughed it off. And then there was some video of them partying together after that event. But then now this, speaking of the political correct situation, that Gloria Allred attorney got a hold of her. And now I'm thinking that she's probably going to sue the kid, and he doesn't have a leg to stand on. I mean, it was so out of line what he did. It's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't want to get too deep into that because it just defies logic. I mean, why would you ever do that to a woman that, you don't know? Anyway, I don't want to get bogged down on that shit. What's next for Alex?
Well, that's up to the manager. We had him on the show. I think he's got the best stable in the business, Aegis, Clemens. That's up to the manager. That's up to the manager and the promoter, Bob Arum. Will the manager, will they confer with me? At the right time, I'm sure that Aegis will. But right now, that's up to things they have to sort out and figure out. It's a business.
Yeah.
Again, talking about being candid, which is, we said this is what this show is going to be. It's going to be about, not that we're the only ones in the world that can be candid, but we're only responsible for ourselves, and we are going to be. Either keep our freaking mouth shut or be candid.
Well, it looks like on paper the only fight that is the path of least resistance of a title. And
the thing I want to say is, no, it's all right. But the thing I want to say is that it's a business.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people say, "Oh, but Daddy, it's about that." I agree about making the best fight. It's about this, about the fan. Yes, it's a business. It's a business, and so just like it's a business for the football. I mean, you want the best games out there, obviously, for the audience, but for the people that own the teams, it's about business. They're not doing it just because they like football, or they like to watch a quarterback, how he handles himself in the pocket. No, it's about business, and same thing with everything. So the business aspect of it, the manager will deal with that, and we'll figure it out. But it's also about, these organizations. It's also about the promoters, what side of the street they're on.
And that's what I was going to get to.
What side of the street, promoters on this side of the street. He doesn't play with a guy, in old days, we used to talk about, play nice with everybody. Well, in boxing, the promoters don't all play with each other anymore.
No.
They should have got one of those lessons when they were kids. You got to play with everyone. Now share your toys. Come on, share your toys now. Play nice. I don't want to play. So we're in a little bit of that place. If the truth's going to be spoken, where it depends what network and what, promoter is affiliated with that network and where they are and who can cross the street and play with each other. So that's all part of it. And it's also part of these organizations, who they try to mandate, who they try to move you into, and all those things, which sometimes can be a little shaky, quite frankly, how they come to these decisions. If we're going to, some other day, maybe we'll get into that, but that can be, a dark pool, putting it very politely. That can be a murky pool, but we will, so there's a lot of things that come into the figuring, come into the deciding when it comes to figuring out what's next. When you ask that question, what's next? Mm-hmm. I will say this, though. I will say that I thought the welterweight division, I still do, was the most talent-laden division out there. Really unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, when you're talking about Danny Garcia, the former champion, you're talking about Spence, you're talking about Thurman. I know he didn't look great, but still, he might be the most athletic guy in the business still, and he's got to get a few fights back and see where he's at, you know, because we don't know where he's mentally at, not just physically, as far as he's made a lot of money and, you know, how passionate he is about it and, you know, everything else. So, and then obviously you have Spence and you have Crawford and Porter and just a tremendous.
I want to get into the welterweight division, but
the light heavyweight division.
That's what I was going to tell you.
That's the point I'm saying. I thought the welterweight, but then when I look at the light heavyweight division and I see Oleksandr, Gvozdyk, I see Bivol, I see Beterbiev, I see Kovalev.
Those are the three other major belt holders.
I see contenders like Brown and other. What was the other guy? I was just trying to think about. But anyway, and other guys. I look at that division, and I see that talent. I say, whoa! Talk about the welterweight division, but the light heavyweight division might be the most talented division there is out there right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
It almost reminds you a little bit in different styles, but it reminds you of the 80s when boxing was so damn healthy. What was the formula? Well, the formula was you had some good fighters and names. You need marquee, but you also had free television. You had network television putting the fights on in your living room. So you identified with the guys. You got to know who they were. You got to see them on an easy without having to do something called pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Or any of that kind of stuff. And you had the best guys available to fight the best guys. You didn't have to cross the street and say, oh, I'm not allowed to go over there.
Yeah.
You know, so you had the best guys fighting each other. So back in those days, you had guys like Saad Muhammad and Dwight Braxton, Kwawi. He became Kwawi. And Jerry the Bull Martin, Yaki Lopez, Marvin Johnson, Michael Spinks. Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. Whew. Wow.
But the current light heavyweight division, like you said, is super competitive. I think you were thinking of Elder Alvarez or Sullivan.
No, Alvarez.
Yeah,
Alvarez, Guerrero is always there.
Yeah.
You know, but Alvarez was the guy
24 and 1,
right.
yeah.
Thank you for doing that for me. Yeah, I knew you could do more than run a marathon and
that's questionable.
And really love boxing. But, you know, yeah, Alvarez was a champion. He was undefeated, and then he gave his title back. He just lost it back to Kovalev, but he's right there, you know, on the top part of the.
I know from talking to Alex, he'd love to unify the belts, and it looks like on paper, like you said about all the different promoters, Kovalev looks to be the path of least resistance in terms of business because he's also with Agus Clemens, and he's top ranked guy. So that looks like they could probably make that fight on paper. And then of course there's one other
He's
fighter.
also connected with Duva, but with Kathy. But yes, you're right.
And then there's one other guy who you mentioned there, Marcus Browne. And I want to just touch on this briefly, and I know that this is a sensitive subject for you, and I just want to give a little bit of background for people out there, because Marcus Browne, when he won the fight against Doudou Ngumbu, awesome win, he looked great. You know, first thing he said was, you know, where Teddy Atlas, where you at? And I think, you know, he's a Staten Island guy, and I think too a lot of fans are probably wondering what the hell is going on. I thought that those guys were in the same camp. And let me just give a little background for those who don't know. Teddy is, you run a nonprofit, in your dad's honor, the Dr. Teddy Atlas Foundation on Staten Island. And, again, these are just very high level, broad strokes. I don't want to get too far into it, but we'll get into the foundation a lot more in future episodes. But over the past 10 years, you've given roughly $1 million to 3 local Staten Island gyms.
One of them's in Brooklyn.
Right. Okay. Sorry. 2 in Staten Island, 1 in Brooklyn.
He's Flatbush.
And I know this is very high level and broad strokes, but one of the fighters to come out of one of those gyms was Marcus Browne. Marcus Browne had asked.
Just to be accurate, I didn't know you were going to go into this.
Sorry.
Just to be accurate, the foundation stepped into an abyss, if you will, where about 10 years ago, the PAL decided to pull funding on all gyms. So these kids had nowhere to go.
Yep. That's the Police Athletic League.
Yeah. One of the gyms was in Park Hill, Staten Island, that, Marcus Browne was training in. So we kept that gym open.
Yep.
So the guy who was running the program at that point. Pat Roosevelt, former New York City detective, and he cared about these kids. He came to me and he pleaded with me to consider funding the gyms. And, obviously at the end of the day, I wound up doing it. And, you know, I didn't do it. It took me a minute to think about it because, you know, it's my business, boxing. So I don't want to be doing something that's necessarily in my business. I've been in this my whole life. But then I started thinking about why I started the foundation 22 years ago, to remember my father for what he did. He helped people that were sick. And I started thinking, the kids that get helped by boxing are sick. They're not sick in the way that we're helping kids where, you know, they have a disease.
Physical ailments.
Yeah. They're sick from a sickness that's out there, unfortunately, in our societies called violence. And they get touched by that. And I thought this would be a place to keep them from being touched by that, to let them escape from that. Not necessarily to make champions, because if we make champions, great. That's nice, but not for that. And that I even said, if we're going to do it, we're going to put a educational component to it, where the foundation will also, besides footing the bill, paying for the coaches and paying for the gyms and everything, but we'll also foot the bill to pay for a certified teacher to tutor them. Because we wanted that to be part of it for the kids, you know, to be staying in school and to be helped to stay in school. So, when I looked at it that way, I said, yeah. And so one of the gyms was already in existence that was closed down. It was Park Hill, the one that Marcus Browne was in. So we kept that open. And then we opened up 2 other gyms. One in Brooklyn, East Flatbush, which has hundreds of kids in, and another one in Staten Island in a place called the Berry Houses. So that's all. If you're gonna,
and we're gonna get into the foundation a lot more in future episodes, like I said. But I just wanted to give just a little bit of context so that we could address this. And again, I know this is like a very sensitive subject for you and not something you want to discuss, but it's almost, for lack of a better term, being forced on you in the way Marcus has handled some of the recent press opportunities, if you will. So at some point, Marcus came to you, asked you to train him. You understandably didn't want to create a conflict of interest and look like
simple, Ken. I appreciate you. You got a good heart. I feel sick that we have to talk about this.
I know you do. And I know it's difficult.
Okay, because we shouldn't have to talk. We shouldn't have to talk about this. You know, he asked me over the years on 2 different occasions, yes, to train him. He's going to leave his trainer, one of the trainers in the gym. He's been with him since he's a kid. But he was going to leave him and he was going to come to me, ask me. And I said no. And he was upset. I get it. But I explained to him, because we're not bigger than the program. We're not bigger than the hundreds of kids that are being serviced by this program. Because if I allow myself to train and make money with a kid out of my programs, where at the end of the day we put $1 million into this, when it was all said and done.
Right.
I mean, it was over $100,000 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood, that was costing the foundation to fund these gyms. And the people that give us the resources, that come to our events and give us donations, they trust me.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing more important than living up to someone's trust. And they trust that I'm going to put those monies in the right places. And it was the right place. But it wouldn't be the right place if then kids that developed out of those gyms, I went and made money with them.
Right.
Then what the frick am I doing?
Right.
I mean, I'm gonna put that kind of money, those kind of resources by people that trust me to do the right thing, and then make it look like, oh, that's why he did it. So he would create a farm system.
Develop your own stable of fighters.
Where he's going to be able to cherry pick fighters out of those gyms. Right. No, that ain't happening.
Right.
No. So I made it very clear that I can't. It's got nothing to do with caring about you. I'll continue to do what was doing for him. I'll break film down with you. You come over my house. We'll watch film, which he did on many occasions. My wife would cook for you a couple times when he came over. And he's a good kid. And he even said, I remember one time when my wife goes, that's love, he said. And I'm glad to do it. And I'll go to the gym and I'll help you and I'll point things out to you. I won't get in the way of your trainer, but I'll point out things and I'll help you and I'll be there for you when you call me and ask me something before a fight or whatever. And we'll figure it out. And like I said, I'll give you advice. And I did go to the gym and work with him, but not in a way where I could be his trainer on a day-to-day basis, involved financially and everything else that is part of being an everyday trainer. And again, because I can't be making money from somebody out of my gyms that these people have given me money to subsidize. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't only be a look of impropriety. It would be impropriety. Can't do it. So, he asked me the one, I explained it to him. He was upset. The second time he asked me again, but he understood at the end of the day. And then this comes now out of nowhere because I guess, don't even ask me to put sense to, how can I put sense? You know how insulting it is to me that I got to put sense to why he would be saying these kind of things. I have to put sense to it when all I did was help the kid and want to try to help and be available for the kid. And I got to put sense to it that now because I decided, I didn't know I was going to come back and train a fighter again. And now that I decided to come back and train a fighter and it turned out to be a light heavyweight and it turned out to be someone who is in his division who he could possibly have to fight. That would happen. Whoever would have thought that would happen. But again, there was no chance that I was going to train him because of the circumstances I just pointed out. Right. It couldn't happen. Couldn't happen. So what does that mean? I'm supposed to put sense to that maybe that he could be angry that I wound up training a light heavyweight, years later that came to me and then I train him and we win the world title. And it happens to be in a situation like this that it's a possibility that he could be an opponent. That I'm supposed to not train fighters. I'm supposed to say, well, maybe I'll come back, but I can't train light heavyweights. Again, if it wasn't for if change things around and let Marcus be from anywhere other than my gyms, then I may have been training him. But it wasn't. It wasn't. And to try to understand how, after all that and many other things that I'm not even mentioning, to be quite honest with you, that I got to stand here and explain it and feel.
No, I know how you feel about this.
I gotta explain it and feel.
I know from our
explaining it.
I know from our private conversations how much this bothers you, and I've been dreading asking you about it, but I feel like
it's not even just
after the first.
It hurts.
I know it does
because
I know how much it hurts you because we've talked about it before and off the air. Obviously,
it hurts because it shouldn't be. Why are we even? I don't want to talk about it no more. I mean, I appreciate it. And, I really do. I appreciate it. And, we're all human and, it's just disappointing. And it's just disappointing. And it's hard for me to be able to understand it. I've tried to understand it by explaining it the best I can.
Yeah.
But it's just, I almost feel I'm human like anyone else. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like when I made the decision to do this all those years ago and allow the foundation to put its resources into it, and this is the end result, that a kid that comes out of the gym that does great, and I'm happy for him. Instead of just saying, "Hey, Teddy, we did it. Hey, Marcus, yeah, great job." This is what has to come. And I'd be a lie if I didn't tell you for a second when I was all alone with the things that people told me he said. And I thought, this is why we did this. So a kid could come out of the gym, and when he has his moment, he could attack us with lies, and with mean spirit, ugliness. Where does ugliness come from? Where is that? Where does that? How? And you know, and when that $1 million could have been used for other programs, I'm wrong. I'm so freaking wrong. That's what disgusts me, that I could think that for 1 second. I'm ashamed of myself that I could even think that for a freaking second. You know why? Because it did save hundreds of kids, thousands of kids. It saved, and they're beautiful. It's saved. So just because, you know, I get hurt by this thing, that for a second I would think maybe we shouldn't have done it. That's what hurts. That's what makes me angry. That I could be made to even think that for a second. That to forget about all the kids that was saved. All the kids, you know, a girl that was living in her car with her mother in Brooklyn, and she's in the Navy now because of the gym. You know, and other kids that went through college, that are policemen, that are firemen, that are servicemen, that are teachers, a kid that graduated pharmacy school. I mean, you know, they're not champions, but they are champions. You know, and for me to be brought to a place where I could forget that for a second, that's the part that is messed up.
Yeah.
And I'm wrong for that. And, that's all.
Well, listen, let's wrap that up. I know it's an uncomfortable topic. Let's move on to the welterweight division. We touched on it earlier. It's super deep, and we've got I want to talk to you about the recent Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia fight. I think that when you and I had discussed this fight in the past, I think we both kind of felt like, you know what, at 3 or 4 to 1, Mikey Garcia looks like a good bet. Well, we were very wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
but listen, again, you know, you live by your words, but
that's right.
But I picked, don't make a mistake, I picked Spence to win.
Yeah.
I mean, but it just
that's
said, when you take a guy who is undefeated, he's a champion, and he comes from a champion's family and champion bloodlines, you know, that if you wanted to throw a, what did the gamblers use the line for that?
It was 3 or 4 to 1.
So
underdog.
So if you want to throw, you know, just throw a few bucks to the side, on a whim, or not a whim, but just on a, you know, it could be a live dog. You know, It didn't turn out to be that way. It didn't even live up to that. But if you wanted to, because of that, you had an excuse to do that. But make no doubt about it, make no mistake about it, that Spence is supposed to win this fight.
Right.
Which he did.
Yeah.
And it was just about how dominant he would be. And it turned out that he was dominant to a level where it wasn't even a throwaway bet, you know, where you could just throw a throwaway bet, a wild card bet. But for me, see, I look at the fight different than when we were analyzing a fight. The simplest things, you don't need Teddy Atlas to tell you this, that Spence was bigger, stronger, the naturally bigger, stronger guy. And he's also relentless. But here was the part that mattered the most to me. And it's the only reason why I really picked him to win. Wasn't just for that. Because bigger guys, through the annals of the sport, the history of the sport, bigger guys get beat by smaller guys, especially in the old days when there was a lot of catch weight fights.
Yeah.
All the time. Matter of fact, the smaller guy usually had the edge because he was smaller, but he was faster. He might have been smarter, and he was slicker, and he was better, and he was technically more sound. But when you have a bigger guy and a smaller guy, and the bigger guy is also smart and fast and technically sound, that's a difference. Now you got a problem. Now it's difficult because you have to have an edge somewhere. If you're the smaller guy, everyone just looks at that. But that's not where it begins and ends. There's advantages when it appears to be a disadvantage. You look at the disadvantage of the side, but then you look at the advantage of what I just alluded to. Guy could be smarter because at smaller weights, usually you have to be technically bigger. As a heavyweight, sometimes you can get away with being like George Foreman. And I'm not knocking George Foreman. Great heavyweight champion. Great. And smart. And special. And he had 2 lives. 2 lives. He came back, reinvented himself. Personally and athletically. But you could get away with just less. You could get away with power and strength and, those physicalities, those physical assets. But in the smaller weight class, no. You have to be more astute technically. And so if you got a smaller guy who's more astute technically and the bigger guy's not, then the smaller guy might have the edge. But here's the thing in this fight and why I like Spence. And it played out. And this is something that I'm not sure everyone's been saying this. They're not giving enough credit to Spence. And I'm taking nothing away from the heart of Garcia. I'm going to say it again. Great heart. And he didn't just survive. Yeah, he survived, but he was still trying. He was still trying. He was throwing shots.
Tough.
He was still trying to win, trying to land something. But it was kind of like raindrops hitting the windshield.
Yep.
But the point I'm making where Spence don't get enough credit is because people are saying, well, he's too big, he's too strong. He was the better fighter. And I'm not knocking nobody here.
Yeah.
He was the better fighter. I'd say it again. All right? He was the better fighter. He was the better fighter. So he wasn't just bigger. He had a larger arsenal, offensive arsenal. He had a better array of punches. If you look at it.
Oh, yeah.
He had he was technically better. This is a guy who you forget about his pedigree, this guy being Spence, of an Olympian, a tremendous amateur. So he had that pedigree. So he was technically sound. And he was more versatile. We just thought of him, and that's wrong. A lot of people just thought of him as the seek and destroy guy, the more aggressive, the bigger, the more, come forward guy. No. This is a guy who's dimensional. He was more dimensional than Garcia.
Yep.
And I'm going to make a compare. You're a great fight fan. I'm going to bring you back. And for the audience, you guys are with us. I feel like I'm with you. All right? That's how I try to do the show. I'm sitting with you guys. All right? I'm sitting with you. Just that you can hear me. I can't hear you. And that's a little advantage for me.
We hear you in the comment sections, though.
That's a little advantage for me because if you disagree with me, you know what? I feel you. I just can't touch you. I just can't get to you. But I feel you. And I'm listening to you. I can't hear you. But I want you to know that in this fight, for me, when I talk about Garcia, and I'm not knocking him, no knock at all, but once you got past his dimensions of controlling the outside, you come in 3 inches, he goes back 7, and he pot shots you. But once you get past that, and a good fighter knows how to get past that, little feint, jab, feet, once you get past that and you don't fall into the abyss, you don't fall into that, my back hurts, you don't fall into that hole and get counted. You don't play his game. Once you get past that, he's one-dimensional, Garcia. Because now, once you get past that where he uses his legs, he controls range, and you get past that, he's straight up. His body's not really moving. His head's not really moving. He's a straight target. Once you get past, he's a straight target now. And a lot of people get the perception because he was so dominant. And before his layoff, people forget he took a layoff because he had a problem with promoter.
Yeah.
He took before his layoff, his legs were even better. His legs slowed down a little bit before this fight. And I think that might hurt him a little bit. And it probably did hurt him a little bit because he had the best legs up until Lomachenko came around. He had the best legs in boxing. So that slowed down a little bit. So now, once you get past that dimension, a lot of people didn't realize Garcia, his head was pretty stationary. And you could touch him. You could find him. And you know what reminded me a little bit of? A guy who gave you the perception because his hands were so damn fast. He gave you the perception that he was a ghost. He gave you a perception that, you couldn't touch him. He gave you a perception you couldn't find him. You know who it was?
Who's that?
Meldrick Taylor from Philadelphia. Yeah. What a gutsy guy, Olympian. What a gutsy guy, fast hand. But you could touch him. Once you got, same thing. Once you close that line, you could touch Meldrick. He wasn't hard to find. And as was proven in the Chavez fight. Now, look, I know he was in there with a great fighter. But Meldrick was winning late in that fight, but he was getting touched. He was paying a price for winning. Even though, and he was never the same fighter after that, unfortunately. But even though he was winning the fight, once Chavez closed that line on him, he was touching him with big, clean punches. And to me, it was a little reminiscent of what I saw in the Garcia Spence fight. Because once you close that line, it wasn't as difficult to touch him as the perception would lead you to thinking it would be.
Right.
That makes sense for you?
Yeah.
And that, guys, that is what I saw in Garcia. And again, this is a powerful word, so I want to be careful because I want to be respectful. Please don't think I'm diminishing what Garcia is and what he's done up to that point. I'm not. But to a certain degree, he was exposed.
Yeah.
That was exposed where people had never realized or seen that part of it. That, once you got past that line that Teddy's talking about, he wasn't that complex. He wasn't that complex. He wasn't that complicated. Where Spence was.
I think it took a fighter like Spence to point that out because Spence looked.
Well, it took a fighter like Chavez maybe to point that out against Taylor too. Yeah. That Taylor was, going around. He was a champion, couple division champion, right?
Yeah.
Similar. And again, real fast hands, gutsy guy, Philadelphia fighter, and Olympian, all those things. But again, you had the perception that you had a ghost there. You had a perception there that you had a guy that was a Mayweather type guy. No, you didn't. Because Mayweather really is a defensive whiz. No, you didn't. You had a guy that had real fast hands, but once you got past that dimension, he was very vulnerable.
Yeah.
He wasn't that complex.
I think that coming out of that fight, the key takeaway for me was, again, Garcia was moving up 2 weight classes, but I was really impressed with how good Spence looked. Late in the fight, he just looked like he was doing whatever he wanted to the point where I thought Garcia's corner might even stop the fight. And I don't think anyone would have predicted. About it. Yeah. I don't think anyone would have predicted that it would have been that one-sided. But that really, I think, shows the depth of the welterweight division. And now it's like, I thought Crawford was far and away the best fighter in that division. And now I'm kind of torn between him and Spence and, Crawford and Spence. And I'd love to see that fight, but I just can't see how they make that with the 2 different promoters and the 2 different networks.
It would have to become a mega. See, it would have to become Pacquiao Mayweather.
Yep.
Where the demand was so big that the promoters, the 2, different networks would say we have to do it because of the money. It would have to get to that level, and it's not at that level.
Not yet.
And, the stars lined up. They don't always line up.
Mm-hmm.
The stars lined up in a special, almost miraculous way to make the Mayweather-Pacquiao. That was the first time that anything like that ever happened.
But even that was arguably a year or 2 late.
All over the place with Canelo and everybody. But, and you saw Mayweather with Conor McGregor and all that stuff. But to make the kind of money that those two fighters made, Pacquiao, one guy making what, $280 million for the night, and another guy making what, 120, 130, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Whatever the break, give or take 10 million here or there, whatever. But
I'm sure there was plenty of taking of 10 million here and there.
to line, well, you're the financial guy. So to line things to line up for that to happen.
Yeah.
Now the door's open, maybe, again, but that was the first time nobody ever dreamed that could happen. I mean, that was like going back to Frazier Ali.
Yeah.
When they were each going to get 2.5 million. 2.5 million? Are you guys crazy? Are you crazy? Who's going to pay that? $5 million to two fighters?
Yeah.
And now look where we are. But, that's the history and everything in life, right? That things advance, but there's a starting point. There is a starting point. Catfish Hunter in baseball. He was the first guy really to open the gates, or Flood. Flood.
Yeah.
Flood and I guess Catfish Hunter to open the gates for free agency.
Yep.
All these guys, I always think there should be a Catfish Hunter and for Flood and all those guys that were the pioneers. There should be something there to recognize these guys that allowed a guy like Trout to just sign a $450 million freaking contract or whatever it was.
It's crazy to think there's rookies on the team that are on probably rookie contracts making like $400,000 or $500,000 sitting next to a guy making $300-400 million. Right? It's crazy, the discrepancy from the rookie contract to the free agent, like mega contract. But listen, I don't want to get too deep in that because I want to get your thoughts.
On Crawford. Go ahead. Just for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
For Crawford Spence, because that would be the fight I like to see. Right?
Right.
I don't think I'm letting any secret out. I think you guys would probably agree, right? And the thing in that fight that makes it is that they match up really different styles, but you know where they match up? Both great talent, right?
Right.
Both got power, even though Crawford's the guy moving up. If you got power, you carry it. He seems to carry his power. Punches are born, they're not made, so you can carry it. Pacquiao carried his power. People forget that he was 109 pounds at one point in his life, and he went up to this and bantam and feather and junior lightweight and welterweight and junior middle.
Floyd will never let you forget how many weight classes he went up and keeping that power, and how did he do it?
That's what I mean. So Pacquiao carried his power. So Crawford has carried his power. So they both have power. They both have great talent. That's where it starts. You have to have great physical ability. They both have different styles, but they both have talent. And they're both undefeated, and they both are very confident fighters, special fighters. And there's an innate, instinctual component to both of their games. I would say maybe even a little more to Crawford's, a little bit more. Where the difference starts to come a little bit, again, is the size, a little bit. That Crawford, no doubt, Spence is the naturally bigger guy.
Yeah.
He's the naturally bigger guy. But this time, he's in there. He's the naturally bigger guy, but he's in there with a guy, unlike Garcia, which I just went through. Crawford can match him in these other categories. As far as intellect, as far as versatility, he can be very versatile. He can even switch lefty or righty. He's got that kind of option. So he can match up better with Spence. So it's not just, it's not just a bigger guy. It's a bigger guy in there with a naturally small guy, but a small guy who's just as good as him in a lot of categories. Not better than him, but, as good. It's in a lot of these areas that you have to mark off in the boxes when you're trying to evaluate, you're trying to handicap something. And it's a difference of the way they approach it. Spence approaches it where he's going to push forward, but he also can step back and can box. He does have that dimension to him. That's what makes him special. Crawford, long, he's got the body frame for that to move up. He's long. He's got that reach. He wants to control the outside from lefty or righty. He wants to charge you. You're a guy probably into real estate. He wants to charge you for real estate. You're going to come in 3 feet. He's going to charge you 4 punches for that 3 feet.
Yeah.
And they might be hard punches. So he's the guy who's going to draw a line in the sand. He's going to use his reach. He's going to try to walk into traps, try to control the real estate, not allow you to make ground on him, make you pay a price for that real estate. And then it's on the burden. If he does that, what makes this fight interesting to me is the burden. This could be a negative for Spence, who would probably be the favorite in the fight, probably.
You think?
I think he might be.
Really?
But it'll be close, but he might be. But now the burden is on him, maybe, to make the fight, to push the fight. Not make the fight contractually, make the fight in the squared circle, where the burden is on him to have to come forward because the other guy's got the reach and he can control the outside. And so the burden might be on him a little bit there. And that makes it really intriguing. And that makes it really an interesting fight. And the last thing I'll touch on is where does the size advantage equate into advantages? Well, the obvious that you're bigger, you're stronger, right? We touched on that. But this.
Yeah.
That maybe the bigger guy takes it a little better. See, nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
And that at the end of the day, that could be the difference in that fight. Maybe. Crawford has very good here so far. From featherweight to junior lightweight to lightweight. Now he's at welterweight. But we haven't really found out at this level yet. So there we go.
He's got a test coming up, and I mean, I love watching Crawford fight, but I gotta say, no offense to Khan, like I'm not that excited about this. I know they're hyping it.
Well, start here. This isn't.
He's been knocked out hard 3 times, and I just think against Crawford is probably like, I mean, okay, fought Canelo, and Canelo, like, I mean, he hurt him. He knocked him out cold. And, I don't see anything that, this looks to be completely one-sided. The line reflects it.
I disagree.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay.
I hate to disagree with you because you're such a nice guy. You really are. And I'm afraid if I disagree with you like 3 times in a row, the glasses will change. Because I know you have different style glasses. And
to the guy who said my glasses are shit on YouTube, your shit. Boom, roasted.
We can't. Ken.
Guy made me so angry.
Where's the referee? I'm gonna have to get a referee to come and sit with us. Are you kidding me? Listen, here's where I disagree. The outcome, you might be 100% right when this maybe gets touched. But people forget. You know what Khan's great at? And listen, I'm taking nothing away from his prowess in his career as a fighter, right? He's great. He's a great businessman and manager. He knows how to play that social media thing that I don't know a damn thing about.
Yep.
He knows how to play that thing like a yo-yo.
I agree with you there. He ain't going to help him.
No. He's a guy that people, and you wouldn't be wrong, say he doesn't deserve these fights, but he gets them. He loses, but he gets them because he puts himself in position to get them. He probably deserves more or as much credit as a manager and businessman and maneuverer, if you will, if that's such a word. I can make up words sometimes.
Some might say manipulator.
Whatever. I want to be nice as I can with it. But he's as good as that as he is at fighting in some ways.
Yeah.
Especially lately.
I agree with
he
that.
gets that huge payday with Canelo, gets blown out, and then he gets another payday here where other guys didn't get this payday. So that's number one. That's unbelievable. He's done quite a job with that. But let's not forget what he was as a fighter. He was a champion. He was a silver medalist some Olympics ago.
Yep.
He was a silver medalist, young. He was about 17, 18 years old as a silver medalist, if my memory serves me correct. He was good. And, of course, he fought in a place, again, oh, my London fans, I love yous. Love yous. I do. I do. Been over there. But, it was easier to build him up into a star, as I explained earlier, because it's London. You don't have all the other traffic. so to speak, to bump into.
Yeah.
So he was built up into a star. Now, he had to have something to build up. He had a silver medal. He's long. He's tall. He's got a good jab. He uses that jab. Like I said, he's long. And he's got a good straight right hand. He's fundamentally good in the area I described, but he's one dimensional in that area. He's very elementary. And it's not a knock. It's just that, he's very basic, conventional. It's jab, right hand, every once in a while an uppercut. And he's got good legs. Well, he's getting old now, but he had good legs. So he had good legs, good jab, nice straight right hand, and some power in the right hand. Yeah, he could get you. He could get you with the right hand. And so he will bring that. He will bring that to the forefront, to the fight against Crawford. Here's where the mistake is for Khan, and why, of course, I'm going to wind up picking Crawford by knockout. I think Khan will give him trouble with the things I just said. With his jab, he's got good speed, good hand speed. He throws straight punches. He'll set up the right hand. He'll be able to, if Crawford turns southpaw, he'll look for the right hand against the southpaw, which works against southpaw sometimes. I used to call it on ESPN, the southpaw killer. So he would, and with his legs, he'd be able to give him, maybe get out in front. Maybe. But here's the big here. With Khan, he reminds me of De La Hoya. People say, "Oh, Teddy, what?" And don't get into one of those crazy places either. I see your minds. I see those minds. Don't do that. Don't do that. So, where De La Hoya in all the big fights, he'd screw it up. He'd find a way to screw it up. He'd find a way to screw it up, to do something wrong and blow it. He did it. He did it with Mosley,
Hopkins.
When Hopkins maybe was too big for him. But, in all the big fights, he never won them. Mm-hmm. Some people say, well, he beat Ike Quartet very close. But that, to me, I'm talking about the really mega fights. And he always blew it. Trinidad. Mm-hmm. I mean, he decided to run for 3 rounds when he's got the fight in the bag.
Yep.
And he was winning by doing what he was doing. He didn't win by running.
Mm-hmm.
But he always would find a way, almost like he didn't deserve to win.
Yeah.
Like psychologically, something went haywire. Right? And he would always mess up. Well, Khan in the big fights always finds a way somewhere along the line to make a mistake. In the Garcia fight, he's on the outside. He should be on the outside with Garcia when he was fighting Danny Garcia. I think Garcia won his first title. He should have been on and what's he do? He gets a little too close with the jab and he gets timed. He gets a little too close and he gets timed. I think a left hook, whatever it was. But he gave up the height. And he engaged. He got too close. With Canelo, I know people are going to say, well, Canelo was too big, but he was doing good. He was boxing on the outside. His one chance was to stay outside, right?
Yeah.
And use the jab, right?
Yep.
And what does he do? All of a sudden he decides, I'm going to lead with a left hook against a stronger guy, a bigger strong. I'm going to lead with a left hook. Seems like a good idea. Bam! Oh, not so good. Straight right hand.
Vicious knockout.
Straight right hand right inside the left hook. All of a sudden he decides to do. And then early in his career, against, what was the guy's name?
Bradis Prescott.
Against Prescott. He, again, long, he's got the reach, he's got everything. He decides to give up that reach, or he forgets. Or maybe fundamentally was never consistently taught right. The technique is wrong. It's wrong. He throws the jab from too close. Bang! Gets hit. Always finds a way. And we have our great Rob here, who's there for us, and he can show you some of the things I'm talking about. Let me see. Which one is this?
This is Prescott.
Look. He's too close. Look. With that long body, with those long arms. Look, you guys. He shouldn't be that close. Geometry of the ring. He was too close, and he got down. He got caught. Right? And then we can show the other ones, too. We can show the ones I was talking about, the Canelo one. We can show the Garcia one. But again, always in the big moments, he'd make a big mistake. He's on that. He decides to throw a left hook. What are you throwing a left hook against Canelo, who's bigger and stronger? And a straight right hand. What does it do? It beats the left hook. Watch. Straight beats round. Did you learn that? Right?
Yeah.
Right? All right. And then we got the Garcia one. Now, here, what's the Garcia one? What a good job by Rob here. Look, got too close. Show it again. Now, the obvious is the hook. Everyone says, but Teddy, you let it. Yeah, but why? He got too close. He didn't have to get that close. Again, maybe he wasn't taught these things on a consistent manner, that is a flaw in his technique and his training. But again, he gets too close. His right hand dropped a little bit when he threw it. He went to throw it, gets too close, and he's susceptible. He's in the line of fire. Geometry, Ken. Boxing is about geometry. Who controls the geometry that's best for them more consistent than the other guy? Who's in control? Who's fighting where it should be fought to give them a benefit, to give them who's doing that more? And he always gives up to geometry at some point.
Yeah, like I said, I think this is going to be a whitewashing, and the line reflects at 1,600 to 1,600, minus 1,600 on Terence Crawford, plus 800 on Amir Khan.
But you would like to be Khan's accountant. Yes, you would.
Yeah.
Yes, you would.
Yeah. Khan's done a great job. Let's talk about the heavyweight division, because there's a lot of action going on there, and we've got basically the three big dogs in that division all have fights coming up between May 18th and June 15th. Unfortunately, none of them are fighting each other, and I don't see anything on the horizon that suggests they may be fighting each other anytime soon. But first up,
Canelo got a gift. Would it be fair to say when he got his 350 million, whatever it is, excuse me, I'm off by a few million, right? When he got he got a gift. Is that fair to say was his first fight that they gave him?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay, right?
Oh.
Okay, right? And you would say that he got overpaid for that, slightly, right?
Slightly.
So I would say, you think it's fair maybe, and I know you're going to get to it, but the guy Schwarz that's fighting Fury in his first part of this deal for 100 million or whatever the money is. I don't even know accurately but Fury got somewhere in the neighborhood, supposedly $100 million for X amount of fights, whatever it is that he signed up, right, with Top Rank. Which is, I would say, just like the Canelo one, he's being overpaid, I would think. Even though he's fighting a guy who's 24-0 and it looks good, because it has to look good, because, right, you gotta put it forward as a reason to watch it, right? But when you look at the guys that Schwarz has beaten, and, obviously you're not gonna, I think I knew one of them. He was a neighbor of mine.
The plumber?
He was a good guy. Because he used to always shovel the sidewalks for people when it snowed. He did, and now he deserves his payday because just for that, just for being that kind of human being, he does. But I digress. I think the point is made that Fury's getting all this money, and the first one out of the box, I think he's being overpaid. But hey, so be it. This is where we live now, right?
Yep.
Right? And so he's fighting Schwarz, and we try to bring the people. Hey, I don't want to be using stupid. Oh, we try to bring you the truth, right? Because we're supposed to do that, but we do try to bring you things that maybe not going to be as readily available normally. So we're going to show you a clip of the guy Schwarz that is fighting Fury in his first fight in his package that he has, right? He's 24-0.
Yeah.
And all I'm going to say to you is, you see the size of the guy he's fighting. He's a lot smaller. So the guy wasn't put there really to win.
We're talking about Schwarz's fight back in April 21st, 2018. Go on the internet. You can find it. He fights Sanad Gashi, who at the time was 16-0, which is crazy to begin with. Which is crazy.
Because He fought 4 of my neighbors, and they were all good guys, except one of them. One of them, the guy used to let his dog run loose. But
one of them, he fought the same guy twice with 2 different names.
Well, that was the other. But he's fighting this guy, and here's the thing. When you see this, you know exactly why Schwarz is the opponent. Because in this case, and listen, I always try to be careful, and I should be, and we all should be. Especially in my business, I was commentating fights for 22 years. I've been training fighters I've been in the business 40 years. Never be in somebody's mind. Never be in their heart. Never be in their body. Never be in their body because you don't know. You don't know. You think you might know, but you don't know for sure. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna qualify by saying that I ain't in his body, but I've been in this business 40 years, and I've seen this stuff. And it's not just about what a fighter can do physically. Some guys have less talent than others, more talent than others, technically better, technically less. But one responsibility you have if you're in that ring, you know what it is? Behave like a fighter. And again, I'm not in his body. I say it again. I ain't in his body. But you watch this for yourself. And you think, because a fight, if you look up Webster's dictionary, I don't know what the frig it's going to say, but I know what my definition is. You find a way to overcome. A fighter finds a way to overcome what's in front of him. You find a way to overcome. You behave like a fighter. And not for nothing, but if a guy's in the ring, I handle a guy who's got less talent. I say, you know what? I'll watch him because he's behaving like a fighter. But when you watch this, or you guys make your own conclusions. You make your own conclusions. And again, no doubt that he gets hit with something, with what we're going to show you here. With a foul. But did he try to overcome? Did he try to behave? That's all I said.
Before we show that clip, let me just set it up. So Schwarz is fighting a guy in, they're fighting in Germany. He's fighting, Sanad Gashi. I think it's in Germany. He's fighting Sanad Gashi, who's 16-0 at the time. On paper, it all looks like, Sanad's brought in to be the opponent. 16-0 looks nice. But Sanad's not behaving like an opponent, and he's starting to touch Schwarz on the chin.
Well, it's not just that he's not behaving. It's that it's available to him because you can touch Schwarz on the chin because you can hit him with right hand. He does put the earmuffs on. Right. He does cover up and just stand there where you can do something.
And I think Schwarz is caught by surprise. Like, this guy isn't behaving like an opponent. He's come to fight. So he starts getting to Schwarz, and then we're going to show Gashi gets him with a little headbutt, no doubt. It looks a little dirty, but let's watch Schwartz's reaction to this headbutt, and you can judge for yourself.
And watch how severe it is. Yeah. Watch how severe. You watch. Go ahead. I'll watch.
Okay, so he springs up a little here, gets him on the chin. All right.
Even a head. I mean, he pushes his head up under him. Come on.
Hold on. Let's look at Schwartz's reaction. Someone shot him with a sniper rifle, it looks like.
I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, again, am I in his body? No, I'm not. And if this turned out to be severe, I'd keep my damn mouth shut.
Okay, hold on. If it's severe, we're not continuing this fight. Fair?
I can't continue.
Okay. Okay, so let's see what happens.
Just with these pictures, you would assume the fight has ended. Right or wrong?
This fight has to end. Let's look at this guy's face and look at the attention he's getting.
But by the way, he's been down altogether. How long? Do we know? Have we verified that? It's somewhere around 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 3 minutes? I mean, a long time.
He's been down for several minutes, and they're giving him medical attention. Like, bottom line is,
look at the way he's laying there. Can we show more? I mean,
let it play.
You guys can find it yourself, and you can answer all the questions I just brought up. But he lays there.
They got his head propped up. The medical attention.
If you want to think the worst, he was laying there. If you want to think the worst, and again, I don't want to be in his mind, but my job is to talk. Right? We have a show. Right? It's called an opinion show.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we have to talk. So I'm saying, if you want to think the worst, that we already know he didn't get hurt. Thank God. Thank God he wasn't hurt at all. But if you want to think the worst, he was laying there until the referee was going to disqualify the guy. Exactly. And he didn't want to move to that happen. Right. And guess what? For whatever reason, it didn't happen because the referee saw what we saw. It wasn't a blatant, it wasn't like, wow. It was just like this. Really? Yeah. And then boom, he falls down. Like, I mean, I think he.
Let's call it what it is. Schwarz was looking for a DQ. He wanted that guy disqualified.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and that doesn't make me, a great handicapper here. But I think that he probably would have a better chance of winning an Oscar before he's going to win the fight with Fury.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, because he showed some talent. I didn't see the talent to win the fight yet, but I did see the talent to win an Oscar, or at least be competitive. Be a little competitive. Because, and then he lays there and the referee says, no, I'm not. And then finally, you got to get up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The arena is only rented to another hour.
Yeah.
You got to get up.
Yeah.
And finally he gets up and he fights.
They fight 3 more rounds.
He continues. And
the guy gets him with
no
another half-assed headbutt. And Schwarz himself starts waving off the fight, disqualifying the opponent. Eventually, the ref is like, this isn't going anywhere. Fine, he's disqualified, and disqualifies the guy.
You just said it. See, listen to what Ken said. Schwarz called for the disqualification.
He's literally waving off the fight with the arms in the air like a referee would do, and the referee eventually is just like, screw it. This isn't going anywhere. Yeah, you're disqualified. Game over. And Schwarz goes on with the victory, and the other guy gets disqualified. I mean, it's really... It doesn't look good for Schwartzy in the Fury fight because he's going to have a lot more to worry about with headbutts with Fury. And
I don't think we helped the promotion. I'm sorry.
You just got removed from the Christmas card list.
Well, we're not getting no Christmas cards. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, do you put them up? Do you hang them up? Do you do that? No, I'm just saying you're gonna have one less. I mean, you're not getting. But do you do that? When you hang it, looks nice. It looks nice. At Christmas time, you hang up those. My wife used to do that. Hang them up, and But no, we're not getting one of those cards. But I mean, but we are doing what we said we would do when we started this show. Was it 5 episodes ago now? This is our 5th. We said that we're gonna bring you again. I don't want to be. You use that stupid word, bring you the truth, but we want to bring you the truth. We want to say things that you should hear and let you figure it out, but at least make it available to you. Pull the stuff out that's might be under some rocks somewhere. Turn the rocks over. That's all. So I turn them over.
Yeah, that doesn't look to be like a very competitive fight, but that should be interesting to see how this heavyweight division plays out over the coming months. Before we wrap,
you got any other fights you want to destroy? Any other you got
some of these fights.
Throwing darts.
Some of these fights I'd like to go to. I don't want to get banned from the arena.
No, you ain't going. You better get another pair of glasses, right? With one of those noses and the mustache.
I'm going to need Dave. Yeah.
You better put one of them on.
I'm going to need Dave Portnoy at Barstool Sports to build me a disguise so I can attend some of these fights like he did at the Super Bowl.
And you talk about throwing darts. You're not going to have to go to London to see our picture on somebody's dartboard.
Yeah.
A lot of holes around the face. A lot of holes.
Well, hopefully the fans appreciate the honesty. Some of the promoters might not like the pointing these kind of lopsided matchmaking efforts out, but I think the fans appreciate the honesty that you're sharing with everyone.
Hey, can I do one real quick segue?
Sure.
Because I think it'd be unfair to leave the heavyweight division with only the names we touched on.
Yeah.
There's a few other names out there because I'm sure there's some fans out there that say, Teddy, those are the only heavyweights out there? No. And I just like to tell you some other heavyweights that are out there and that maybe Owen talked about as much. But there's a guy now that's kind of making his presence known, Joe Joyce. The real fight fans will know who he is, but he was a 2016 Olympian, silver medalist, from Great Britain. And he's about 260 pounds. I think he's 8-0 with 8 knockouts. Maybe he's 9-0 with 9 knockouts. Yeah. But he's moving fast. He's moving pretty fast. And when you have a big amateur background, you can move faster, because you do have that background. So you touched on Pulev. There's also a guy named Adam Konacki. I want to pronounce it right. A Polish heavyweight. I think he's about 19-0.
Yeah.
Fan friendly. He really is. He's a gutsy guy. He makes fun fights.
Yeah.
People love him. He's got an audience behind him and a following behind him. And he makes fun fights, you know. And then you got a guy named Oscar Rivas who, he's promoted. I think he's about 26-0. He beat Brian Jennings, not too long ago. And he's promoted out of Canada. So, and then, you know who, you want to hear my favorite guy out there? In the bushes a little bit. He's not in the bushes that much because he's won some pretty good fights recently. He beat Joseph Parker. But Dylan White. I like Dylan White. This kid, they put him in a little too early, with Joshua. That's his one loss. He got stopped by Joshua. Yeah. But I like this kid. I really do. I like him. I like his attitude. He's strong. He's physical. He goes to the body pretty good. You know, he punches good. You know, he likes to be aggressive and he's getting better. Yeah. He's getting better. You know, like I said, they put him in too soon with Joshua. And so I like him. So there are some other players out there. I just wanted to do that. That's all. I wanted to mention that there are other heavyweights out there and, you know, guys to be aware of, guys to think about.
One thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about Alex earlier is that, we have 2 gloves signed by Teddy and Alex that we're going to give away in the next 2 weeks. You can find information on the show notes on the iTunes podcast site, but one will go to a random subscriber on the YouTube channel, and one's going to go to our favorite review on Apple Podcasts. So to be clear, it's not the comments on the YouTube channel. We're going to pick one from our favorite review on Apple Podcasts. And one's going to go to
whoever's nicest to Ken.
Oh, there's plenty of nice people. It's just if 100 people say something nice and one guy says my glasses are shit, that's the only one I see. It drives me crazy.
But Ken, don't. People really like you. They appreciate you. You're a good person.
I'm trying. If you knew how much I cared and tried, you would be much nicer to me.
We do.
So we're going to pick two people to get the glove signed by Teddy and Teddy and Alex. And thanks again, seriously, to all the comments and on YouTube and all the reviews. Seriously, it means a lot. And you know, we announced the winners of the Lomachenko and Teddy signed gloves. The 2 winners were Frank Pittman and for the Apple iTunes review, and the YouTube subscriber was Shaggy Turtles 43.
Shaggy Turtles. I love Shaggy
Teddy
Turtles.
picked that name. He liked that handle. So thanks to everyone who subscribed. Honestly, it means a lot. And yeah, I think we're going to leave it there for this week. And we've got some big things coming up, so please stay tuned. Continue to tune in, subscribe, review it, share the shows. We're looking forward to having some really good guests coming on in coming months. So stay with us, and thanks for being with us. Teddy, you got anything you want to add?
Go Raiders. My son works for the Oakland Raiders, you know?
Yeah.
And the draft will be coming up before you know it, right?
A lot of controversy with the Raiders tweeting out a tweet about who's the kid from Oklahoma, Rob, the quarterback. Anyway, they got David Carr's attention. They tweeted out something about the quarterback from Oklahoma, and David Carr tweeted out a set of eyes and saying basically, I'm seeing this. Who's tweeting out that we're drafting a quarterback?
Oh, he was the Heisman
Trophy.
Yeah.
Why am I spacing on this?
Yeah, the Heisman Trophy winner from Oklahoma.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Murray.
Sorry.
I mean, great kid from everything we know about him, and obviously a great athlete, you know, and man, oh man, he can make things happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he can make things. Some people talking about, I don't know if people forgot about this guy, but boy, was this guy magical years ago when he first came out. Michael Vick, remember him?
Oh yeah.
Some people comparing him to that kind of electricity.
Yeah.
You know, electricity where, you know, he can just make plays.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll see. But either way, just win, baby. Just win, baby.